coming to you live from South Africa.
The time is just gone 9:22 a.m. as we continue with the show this morning. It's time now to look at the remarks that were made by Chief Justice Mogoeng. And this was made last year during a hospital sermon that he had conducted at a hospital in Tembisa, and talking about the vaccine, the COVID-19 vaccine, and that it contains the work of the devil. The African Alliance obviously has taken exception to these remarks and have lodged a formal complaint against the Chief Justice with the Judicial Services Commission. We're joined on the line this morning by the AA's founder, Tian Johnson. Tian, good morning to you and welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Tian, if you could just possibly just speak up slightly. You are pretty faint.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Tian? Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Right. Tian, let's talk about these remarks that were made by the Chief Justice, and obviously, as far as you are concerned, and also looking at the African Alliance, you have obviously taken exception to these remarks, particularly linking the vaccine, saying that this is the work of the devil.
Absolutely. You know, we have no issue with anyone's freedom of speech. We believe that freedom of expression is a right that should be exercised, but however, it should be exercised with due deference to, amongst others, the purpose of national unity, the pursuit of national unity. And the Chief Justice's remarks are particularly worrying because it really comes across as if he is unappreciative of his power, his influence, and his privilege. And what we are saying is that as we are on the cusp of rolling out a national vaccine for COVID-19, it is not helpful for people with his power, position, and privilege to make such comments when we, working across communities in this country, are trying to build faith in the science. There are legal bodies that have been set up in South Africa, which, as the country's top judge, you should know that bodies like the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority, SAPRA, were established by law to ensure that vaccines and medicines that we see in the public health sector go under stringent quality control to make sure they are high quality, they work, and they don't do any harm. So it's really, really unfortunate that he made these remarks. Also, the fact that he made these remarks at a hospital in Tembisa, a hospital that we will rely on to roll out the very vaccine that he is now linking in his prayer to misinformation. So his claims are they have no basis in science or reality or in logic. And of course, it's really interesting seeing these remarks because it's very likely that the Chief Justice himself is alive and healthy today, very likely as a result of him receiving vaccinations when he was a baby growing up in the Northwest Province.
Now, Tian, these remarks and the reason why the African Alliance, that you feel so strongly about this, is this, if somebody else would have made a similar statement, would it have been problematic as much as the problem? Because the Chief Justice, he is a Chief Justice and he occupies quite a high position in the country.
Absolutely. He didn't make these remarks as Joe Public at a braai in his backyard. But it's interesting to look at what a former Chief Justice said, Johan Chrysler. He said, accepting appointment as a judge creates a special kind of compact with society. And while we entrust our judges with great freedom in performance of their functions, they in return must accept the onerous duty at all times to be worthy of our trust. And the enforcement of these obligations, Johan Chrysler says, is about integrity, restraint, and protection of the moral authority of the judiciary. It is about trust. And we don't see that in his remarks around vaccines.
Right. Now, let's talk about this formal complaint that you have lodged with the Judicial Services Commission. If you could just take us through in terms of the nature of the complaint and what are you expecting the Judicial Services Commission to do?
Yes. So we submitted the founding complaint last week. The complaint has now been referred to the Judicial Conduct Committee. The issues that we have laid out in our complaint are around his position, but also if you look at our founding papers that are available on our website, we've also unpacked at great length the evidence that words matter, words have power, especially when you're speaking about vaccines. So we've included a whole review of evidence in our founding affidavits that very clearly unpacks why his remarks are problematic, and maybe more importantly, why his remarks present a real and tangible threat to the investments we are making to roll out a COVID-19 vaccine.
Okay. Now, as far as outcomes are concerned, what are some of your expectations?
So we don't want to preempt the work of the Judicial Conduct Committee, but what we are expecting is for him to be held accountable. We believe that public officials with privilege and power and platform must be held accountable for what they say, because all it's doing is it's setting back our work. It's setting back the work of community organizations who are working to prepare for the vaccine rollout. It's setting back the work of scientific research. You know, a number of South African senior public health specialists have raised similar concerns. We had the president of the MRC, we had the head of the Ministerial Advisory Council, Professor Barry Shube, as well, who all came out and explained that public confidence in vaccines is critical, and remarks of this nature could severely compromise the uptake of vaccines. So we eagerly await a response from the Conduct Committee.
Tian, just on that note, and just moving away from the Chief Justice on the subject of vaccines, and we saw the President go at great lengths, obviously talking about the vaccines, looking at the government, the plan, the rollout plan, and getting to a stage where he spoke about herd immunity or population immunity. 67% of the people getting vaccinated. That's close on to 40 million people around the entire country. And at this point in time, this vaccine debate is still taking place. To vaccinate, not to vaccinate, the ivermectin debate is taking place at this point in time as an alternative to taking the vaccine. So at this point in time, we are in a state of flux. We are in a state of total confusion at this point in time. And just looking at what you've done to date, the research you've done, the experts that you've spoken about. If you can just give us spend a few minutes and let's just talk about your take on this vaccine, and more importantly, in terms of the rollout in this country.
Yeah, I mean, we were really excited about the rollout, and certainly acknowledgement should go out to leadership within government who have secured at least initial phases of the vaccine. We, of course, are part of the COVAX facility that will also see additional stocks of vaccines coming through. But you spoke about ivermectin, so just to hopefully address that, is that the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority has made it very clear it is not approved for use in humans in South Africa. We do not have confirmatory data available as yet for the use of ivermectin in COVID-19 infection. In terms of safety and efficacy, there is no evidence, and I will repeat, in terms of safety and efficacy, there is no evidence to support the use of ivermectin for the management of COVID-19 infection, and there is no clinical trial evidence to justify its use. So that's in ivermectin and the very clear science behind it. We don't work on opinions and feelings and passions. We go 100% on the evidence. When the evidence is there, it will be re-looked at. But right now, the evidence does not exist. In terms of the rollout, we are currently conducting national outreach and engagement for these, what is being touted as the initial groups, or the priority groups to receive this vaccine. And of course, that includes healthcare workers, it includes those over 65, and it includes those with comorbidity. So the various structures on the Ministerial Advisory Committee on COVID are working on fleshing out those definitions and structures in terms of who would be at the front line of receiving the initial stocks of vaccines. But as the African Alliance, we certainly support the work that is being done by government and the work that is being done by civil society to hold government accountable, to ensure that we also need transparency. We need to know what agreements are being made by the government in the name of the South African people. So we need transparency and we need accountability, but we also need to move ahead whilst doing that.
Well, Tian, we're going to have to leave it at that. Thank you very much for that and for your time with us this morning. All the best to you, sir. Take care. Tian Johnson joining us this morning, the African Alliance, the official complaint that was lodged against the Chief Justice of South Africa, Mogoeng.